Good evening, hockey fans, and welcome to another episode of Pod Snipe Celly. My name is Dan Bradley. Alongside me tonight, Joel Fernino. Joel, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm feeling good. Just got back from Orlando. Apparently, I got a little tan. I am feeling nice.
I was wondering if that was tan or if it was just maybe the new ring light. You finally got some testing with that in.
It's
and
now off. I just shut it off
got
for
to do
reference.
a little work there. So
I just shut it off for reference. Now
I think I might have frozen here for a minute. So we'll just see what's up there.
You didn't freeze?
Oh boy, we're already having some technical difficulties off the rip.
Can you not hear me?
I couldn't. You totally froze on me there. So
that's weird.
Hopefully that all picked up okay. We'll see what it looks like in post.
I blame you.
It's fair. It happens, but I'm starting off about as strong tonight as the Minnesota Wild are through their first 3 games. So
it's 3 games.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it a little more later on in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got a good one on deck for you tonight. As a reminder, we are live during the show. So if you have something, a comment, prediction, or spicy take that you want to share throughout the show tonight, we would love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments below. But Joel, let's kind of jump right in with the big news. The season's underway. And absolutely cruising along so far, except when we aren't, like Monday night where we had no games, or last Saturday, Sunday, Monday where we really didn't have games. And we had 2 games over in Europe that counted, but nobody really got to see them. So
did they really count? I mean, yes, legally in a sense, but
if 2 teams play a game in Europe and nobody in the NHL North America gets to see it, did it really happen?
Does it make a sound?
Yes.
Does the post make a sound anyway?
Ping.
It's very high pitched.
If a shot, that's about the pitch. It's about that high. I don't know. I'll go look up Niederreiter's back bar against Colorado in the 2014 playoffs.
I remember
the
that game.
Most glorious sound of all time. Game 7 overtime winner on the road. The Avs have done pretty well for themselves since then, so they're not too bad.
That was my favorite Wild goal.
Because it eliminated Colorado?
Because it eliminated Colorado and meant we were playing you in the second round, and that was easy.
I'm pretty sure that was the sweep year, right?
Nah,
or was that 4-2?
That was 6, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Either way.
That was one where Patrick Kane got the game winner in overtime in game 6, and like no one really knew, and he was just like, that was in.
The weird bounce off the stanchion.
Yeah, and he just put it up high, and it like got stuck by the water bottle holder. And
Patrick Kane and scoring weird series clinching goals. Name a more iconic duo.
It's true. I'll wait.
Yeah, season already well underway, and a few really big surprises so far. If you had told me that through the number of games so far that Kalen Addison was going to be on the same scoring pace as Cale Makar, I would have been quite surprised.
I did tell you that. No.
If you had told me that coming into this week's show that the Flyers and the Blackhawks would both have more wins than the Wild, I would have been maybe a little less surprised just because of the Wild's schedule to start, but still at least a little surprised. Joel, for you, what's been the biggest surprise so far to get the season underway?
I mean, well, we have a win. That's definitely one, and over the Kings, who are off to a decent start already. So
I thought it was San Jose.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was San Jose. We did play the Kings, I thought, but yeah, it was San Jose. Sorry, California teams, whatever. I was also in Florida when those happened, so I didn't actually get to watch them, but I did get the lovely Eastern time notification of. No, the Hawks won, and I'm like, it's midnight. Oh, no, I guess it's not.
Yeah.
No, I think, I mean, realistically, my biggest surprise right now is how, I'm kind of torn between 2 things, and they're both standings related. Scoring-wise, like, you look at, like, the points leaders and everything, none of it really surprises me much. My boy, the bread man, leading the way with 10 points so far, and was it 4 games or 3?
4 games for the Rangers, who we're also going to talk about here in depth.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. I don't want to tease too much there, but I'm not surprised by any of that. Zibanejad leading in goals, actually tied with Adrian Kempe. That's not that surprising. right
A
now.
little bit that it's Kempe up that high, but
Yeah, I mean, well, it's actually a like 6-way tie with goals leaders because obviously McDavid is involved in that with 4 as well. Stamkos has 4. Nino Niederreiter's got 4.
yeah, he was crushing it in Europe and has stayed hot since coming back.
Quick shout out to our trade boy who we loved because it meant we got to get rid of Alex Nylander. Is Sam Lafferty is leading the league in shorthanded goals.
Yeah, that to me was a big surprise. The Hawks scored 3 shorthanded goals in the same game. We've got some comments here as well.
Ooh, bring him
Early
on
in the show. We got Joey
Taves turning
for
back
his
the
surprise.
clock.
Yep, good start so far for Taves. Looks vintage. Hawks power play looks good. HP saying biggest surprise, the Wild stink. Joey also asking you a bit of narrowcasting here. How's the
Oh,
Moosehead?
yes. So I did. So for anyone who wasn't listening, we went to Orlando for a friend's birthday, and the first day we went to Universal the second day, but the first day we did drinking around the world in Epcot.
Mm-hmm.
So Joey was asking, I did have the Moosehead Lager in the Canada portion, and it was quite delicious. That also ended the day, so everything was delicious to me at that point. But
that's fair.
We started in Mexico, worked our way all the way around to Canada, and then the UK was last. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, Canada was last. Anyway, I mean, I feel like if you look at the standings, the top 3 in the Central, other than number 2, I didn't see that coming.
Well, and again with Colorado, second in the Central, Dallas is in first. Colorado's loss was to the Calgary Flames, who were the number 2 team in the regular season last year,
who are also
in the Western Conference. So, so it's not like they, had a clunker and lost to Arizona. Looking at you, Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, I'm already pissed about our Wednesday night picks based off those failures. Anyway, I look at the top of the Atlantic Division and I'm very confused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's probably my biggest shock right now, at least from a full-on teams and standings standpoint.
I heard a lot of talk in the last few days leading up to this season where a lot of people were like, look out for Boston this year. Boston's going to surprise people. They're expecting them to take a step off the wagon. I'm guilty. I was one of those people who thought
I was too.
that they were going to take a big step back.
I picked them to not make the playoffs. At least I thought I did.
Yeah, same.
So, whoa.
HP's comment made me laugh that hard. At least we can all laugh at the Leafs together.
It's true. Feel bad for Toronto as a city, but I mean, hey man, I don't know what's going on. Like it's so confusing. Actually, too, not to take it away from my Atlantic Division comment, but also Dallas not only 3-0 and atop the Central, but also a +10 goal differential so far.
Yeah, I mean,
3 games played.
Last season's Dallas team probably would have scored 10 goals total through 3 games, let alone had that as a differential.
So talk about coming out of the gate and getting the memo with that fire lit under your ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they came out swinging. I'm going back to Toronto for a minute because Joey here, Leafs will leave.
Leafs will leave.
They're 2-2 to start the season, but their losses are to Arizona and Montreal. Yeah, 2 teams that are expected to be in contention for top 5 draft picks in next year's class.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's about right. One that I think the Flyers being undefeated, and they'll get a big test tomorrow night. Beat the Canucks 3-2, beat the Devils 5-2. They
not
are
necessarily 2 world beaters.
They're playing right now at the Lightning, and then they've got a back-to-back tomorrow night. So they've got at the Lightning tonight and then at Florida tomorrow night. So we'll see just how legit this Flyers team is.
Speaking of the Lightning, if you started the playoffs today, they would be very far out of it.
Yeah, it's a good thing the playoffs aren't starting today. It's also, in fairness, point percentage is a factor too. It would come into play versus just strictly standings points, but still. Mm-hmm. Tampa Bay, a little unfamiliar territory, 75% penalty kill. Here's a brutal stat for Tampa Bay that, again, is not like them at all. 34.4% in the faceoff dot. That is rough. That is dead last. The next closest team is the Detroit Red Wings at 40.7. So some weird numbers there. But again, if you had to guess the top 2 teams in the league on the power play, who would you guess for your top 2?
Like currently?
Yeah, currently.
Actually, aren't the Hawks up there?
Hawks are 11th.
Oh, never mind then. I actually looked at it not too long ago either. I think
who has the most star power in the league on the power play?
well, Colorado.
Yep. And?
Oh, so Colorado and it's going to be somebody weird like
No, you're overthinking this.
Oh, Colorado and Tampa?
Go to the West Coast instead. Or Western Conference anyway.
Calgary?
North. Yeah. No, you're close. Edmonton.
Duh.
Yeah, both the Avalanche and the Oilers, 50% on the power play. Minnesota Wild third at 42.9, and then fourth and fifth. You would never guess these if I gave you 20 guesses.
Ottawa and Seattle.
Seattle is 5. Arizona is 4.
I got Seattle.
You would not have come up with Arizona at 4. Don't even try and tell me that you would have. Yep, HP got it. HP got it.
Edmonton. No, I wouldn't. Oh, Joey's
tapping out for tonight.
Oh, I'll take it though. Obviously, dad duties are more important. Obviously.
Yeah. Appreciate you joining for the little bit that you did. And anybody else who's watching as well, we'd love to hear from you.
Hey, also, nothing wrong with listening on demand. Spotify's great. Apple Podcast is great. Check us out on there.
Look at this guy.
Write a review. Write a review as well. I don't think we have any reviews yet. Give us.
I don't think we do either.
Even if it's 1 star, because I know my voice gets really annoying, especially because I have half a voice still. But
Yeah, we're getting over it. All
right, maybe not 1 star. How about like 2? Be nice a little bit.
One for each of us.
Yeah, there you go. Even if you just hate it, then just 2 stars is fine. But I don't know. That's probably my biggest. Did you say yours yet?
I've thrown a few out there. One more that I just noticed that really surprises me. The San Jose Sharks are 0-4 despite a perfect penalty kill on the season.
Well,
so usually when you're losing games like that, it's you're letting in a lot of chances. You're cutting ruts to the sin bin. PK's not going, but for them, like a perfect penalty kill is a perfect penalty kill.
No, I agree. I think actually, that makes sense. I think the other thing too I need to add is, granted they've only played 2 games. This is like way too early to say, but Ottawa being 0-2 is a little bit differing from what I was expecting from them.
Yeah, looking at the teams that are winless this season, the Ottawa Senators, the New Jersey Devils, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Minnesota Wild, the Vancouver Canucks, and the San Jose Sharks. Which of those teams do you think is the last to get a win?
So which is going to be the last man standing of winless teams of those?
Yeah.
I can tell you it will for sure not be the Wild. It will for sure not be Vancouver.
Well, Wild and Vancouver play each other Thursday too, so one of those presumably is coming to an end there.
I think you're going to get your first win that night. I'm probably going to say the last one standing there is going to be probably San Jose. They're just terrible.
Yeah, my only thought here is that Ottawa plays San Jose on October 23rd. Oh, wait, hang on. Nope, Flyers. Sorry, I clicked the wrong team.
I was going to say, like, Ottawa, I expect to be 1-2 after the next. Well, wait, who do they play?
Ottawa is home against Boston, home against Washington, then home against Arizona.
Oh, so Ottawa's playing Boston right now as we speak.
Yeah. So if Ottawa doesn't win Tuesday or Thursday, I would think Arizona, but then again, Arizona just beat Toronto, so
yeah, but anybody can beat Toronto when Toronto is a massive favorite.
Yeah, we in a different in a hockey chat with some Minnesota Wild podcast guys, our buddy Spokesy says anytime that the Leafs are minus 200 or larger, the number is larger.
I was just about to ask what the betting.
Yeah, and anytime there's minus 200 or more for the Leafs, especially if they're at home, he will bet on the road team and hit like constantly. Like it's insane.
Dude, you could probably make a solid side hustle off of betting against the Leafs.
Yeah, you probably could.
Honestly.
Just when it's a game that they absolutely should win. The team on a second night of a back-to-back playing a backup goaltender. Team whose Zamboni driver gets called into action.
How many times last year did we do it for the bit and it involved Toronto against like
literally
Arizona?
last week.
Literally last week.
Montreal last week.
I didn't learn. I put too much faith in Toronto because I know they usually come out the regular season flying out of the gates until they eventually, crash and burn like a Zeppelin.
Let's talk about the New York Rangers.
I do want to talk about.
We've already talked a little bit about how Panarin is just absolutely cruising.
My boy.
Rangers 3-1 on the season so far. They are tied with the Hurricanes for first, but Hurricanes, of course, one fewer game there. 17 goals on the season for New York through 4 games. They're on a roll to start the season, and they can really string together some wins here with some of these games they've got coming up.
Yeah, totally. I mean, their first game too, like Panarin's advantage popping off. I told you, man, I like the Rangers this year. I know I didn't end up picking them to win the Stanley Cup, but come time for us to actually make picks, who knows? Maybe I'll switch.
Yeah, I mean, we usually make our picks at the beginning of the season, and then once the playoffs roll around, kind of realign things there. I, at the beginning of the year, said Carolina over Florida, but also at the end of the playoffs last year, I was like, don't be surprised if it's Tampa Bay and the Rangers right back here again next year. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised to see it. I think it's still a matter of how far Igor Shesterkin can carry them. But if their offense keeps putting up like this, Shesterkin's going to have nothing to worry about.
That's the whole thing. Like, their defense is solid, obviously. I mean, any defense led by Adam Fox is going to be damn solid. But you don't need, your defense is already good. And they get enough rest when, just like Colorado, when you're just always on offense and you're putting up these kind of numbers. And yeah, exactly. Shesterkin is good enough to put the team on his back and carry you to however far you need to go. But they keep this up, he's not going to have to do that. And that bodes well to kind of rest him over the course of the season. If you're not facing, 35 shots a night and your offense is putting up 3+ goals a night, like you're in good shape.
Well, you kind of segued right into something I wanted to touch on here. And that is that in the opening game against Minnesota, Rangers won that game 7-3. The Wild outshot the Rangers 36-35 in that game. Since allowing those 36 shots, they have pulled their average shots against per game down to 29.5. So pulling it down by 6.5 shots on a per game average over those 3 games really tells you how much they stiffen things up and are keeping opponents from those opportunities. And of course, when you're controlling play at the other end of the ice, you're not giving up those types of shots nearly as frequently. And they tend to not be as high danger as well, which, again, another big thing that really plagued the Rangers last year was the number of high danger chances against. Yeah. And that's ultimately what crippled them against Tampa Bay in the playoffs.
No, exactly. And I think they had a bit of a lack of a clutch factor in a little bit of a way. Obviously, we saw some, a nice OT winning goal and stuff like that in the playoffs, but you're asking, like, back to your question of what's their floor, their ceiling. Their floor, to me, is the 3rd seed in the Atlantic or Metro. Sorry, that's their floor. If they're sitting in a wild card spot, I will say we could come back to this episode and I will say, what in God's name happened?
Yeah, because I mean, you look at the rest of the Metro. Carolina, that's going to be tough all year. Pittsburgh,
that's fine.
Where are they going to be at? Flyers, I don't think are going to hang around for the long haul, but you never know. It's a Torts team. They're always going to be tough to play against. Washington Capitals, trying to scrape things together for one more run with the core that they have.
Toronto,
At least in the division, I am with you that 3 and maybe even 2.
I was going to say
is a floor here. I think 3 is the safe floor. 2 is the we're about right for where we would expect them to be, but I think I can't see them going lower than 3rd.
I'm gonna go hot. I'm gonna go real spicy take.
Oh, let's go.
And you can call this Monday morning quarterback all you want, and I'm going to admit that it is, but New York Rangers for the President's Trophy.
Wow. I like it.
I get it. They're 3-1. Obviously, like you see Carolina 3-0, but obviously one less game played. Dallas 3-0. Dallas ain't gonna contend for the damn President's Trophy. This will slow down eventually.
Colorado, maybe. Edmonton, maybe. Calgary, maybe. But Rangers, they got a good shot.
That's the thing, and but that's what makes me afraid to say that their ceiling is Stanley Cup champion. I would say their ceiling is Stanley Cup final. Because something just tells me that we've seen them do it. We saw them do it in 2014. Like, we thought that team was poised to win the cup, but
I will never get over the fact that Lundqvist didn't win a cup that year.
Oh, trust me either. And I guess the only thing that the Rangers had against them was the fact that on the other side in the Western Conference Final, you had the two juggernauts that owned that, most of that first half of the decade. So it basically just became like, yeah, this is great. Awesome. Congrats to the Rangers making it back to the Cup Finals, first time since 94 when they won. And then, you look over to the West and you're like, oh, well, doesn't really matter who comes out of the East. It's going to be Chicago or LA who wins the cup. It doesn't matter who comes out of the East that year. So I felt so bad for him, but I don't. The East is obviously much better. They've taken it obviously over the course of the last few years, but I'm almost too afraid to say their ceiling is a Stanley Cup championship. Because
I think. I mean, it's safe to say that, I think it's safe to say that is the ceiling, because they're going to end probably somewhere in the middle. I don't know. I think they're one piece away from a cup, but I couldn't tell you what that one piece is. Maybe some extra defensive depth, like a really true shutdown defenseman.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
I don't know where. I don't know where you're going to go out and get that. Just the way that they're built, like the offense, I'm not worried about. The goaltending, I'm not worried about.
As long as they stay healthy.
Right. And that's the biggest caveat to all of this is staying healthy throughout the season. Right. Looking at the defensemen that they have, K'Andre Miller is good.
Yes,
Jacob Trouba is a playoff type defenseman. Like, he's built
also
for that. If he doesn't take suspensions, but
right, he's a force for sure.
Of course, he's hard to play against, at times dirty to play against, which is thus the suspension comment. But looking at the rest of their team, I think that's really the only spot that they might want to be looking to add. And of course, there were the rumors. I've got to bring it up about Kane to New York. I don't see them going that route. I don't think that's a move that, in the grand scheme of things for this team, makes sense as addressing the need that will put you over the top.
That ultimately makes them a better Toronto in a way. Because to me, you make that move, you're going to be one hell of a force. You're already a force, but you're going to be a phenomenal force to be reckoned with on offense. And it's going to be one of those types where it's like, oh yeah, who needs defense when we're scoring 5+ goals a night with this, they would reunite Panarin and Kane together. And some would argue, like, hey, who was on Kane's line when Kane won the MVP, right? So I've heard that if he's going to go anywhere, and if he's going to waive his no movement clause for any team, it would be New York for sure, because nobody wants to go to Buffalo. I don't care if it's his hometown or not. But you're right. I don't think that's what they truly need. Like, they have offensive firepower. We see it already. What's their goal differential? Their goal differential is +5, so it's decent. But no, I totally agree with you. You took the words right out of my mouth. They would have to go and grab, maybe at the trade deadline or even beforehand, whatever. They would have to go grab, if not one, if not two defensemen, maybe one that's more of your shutdown defensive defenseman kind of guy, and then one more offensive defenseman kind of guy. San Jose ain't looking too hot. Maybe they're going to look to try and see if they can ship out Erik Karlsson, perhaps. I don't know who's going to take on that contract, but
yeah, because that's the other thing is the Rangers have 183,000 in cap room projected right now. Deadline cap space goes up to 808,000.
Well,
so
hey,
they're going to have to move some money to try and get an extra piece in there.
Well, yeah. I mean, hey, Tampa Bay makes it work. Don't they have like $10 in cap space?
Wait, who? Sorry,
Tampa. It works for Tampa Bay. They have like $10 in cap space.
I mean, they have no projected cap space right now, but 2.76.
It was a joke
at the deadline. So
it was a joke.
I guess there. Yeah, Tampa Bay's projected LTR used 8.9 mil. That's that's going to change on the next CBA, and that's going to be the next.
I get it. I don't know, man. I see them just keeping their foot on the gas pedal, dude. And hey, I'm here for it, man. My boy Artemi Panarin. I want to see him hoist a Stanley Cup one day.
Let's talk a little Minnesota Wild here.
Of course.
If we talk Hawks a little bit,
what?
We credited that there are 3 shorthanded goals in the same game this season.
And the captain is back to form.
We referenced the captain. We referenced their cup win. That's enough Hawks talk for this show. But the Minnesota Wild, another pretty big surprise, and got trounced by the Rangers in the opener. It was a 7-3 win for New York. The Wild allowed 20 goals through their first 3 games, becoming the first team since the 1989-1990 Detroit Red Wings to allow 20 or more goals through 3 games to start the season. It's been a brutal start so far. Joel, on a scale of 1 being not at all panicked, totally confident in this team, to a 10, sound the alarm, nuke everything, trade everybody, bottom out. Just setting the perspective of the scale here.
Okay.
For your 1 to 10 scale, where is your level of panic for the Minnesota Wild right now?
I would definitely say a 1.
I'm at about a 2, maybe a 2.5. It's not like the teams that they're playing that they've lost to have been bad teams.
We were just talking about the Rangers.
You played the Rangers, who are a strong cup contender this year and were the Eastern Conference runner-up last year. You had Colorado, who was the cup champion last year. And you have the LA Kings, who were knocked out in the division final round.
And are going to be and are a much improved team this year.
They were my pick to win the Pacific this year.
Right.
That's a good hockey team.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
So for me, like the panic level isn't off the charts, but you see 20 goals allowed through 3 games, and obviously something there is very much not working.
Now, to your point too, while all 3 of those teams are very good, I guess I can see your 2 versus my 1, simply for the fact that 2 of those 3 teams are teams you're going to see a hell of a lot throughout the regular season and inevitably in the playoffs, especially in Colorado and obviously, of course, LA too. So
yeah, if Minnesota is going to, they could end up with LA in the first round if LA is a division winner and the Wild end up in a wild card spot. LA. Hiking and tacos in LA. Otherwise, I think it's much more likely that they end up in a situation where Colorado is a playoff opponent.
You don't want that.
Depending where they finish within the division, St. Louis is still a threat. Nashville is still a threat. Dallas is still a threat. But I think top to bottom, roster-wise, the Wild have a better overall roster makeup than those teams.
I agree. I very much agree.
So just off of that alone, this team really should be a top 3 team in the division. If they finish 2, they'll have home ice in the first round and wouldn't play Colorado because I'm just operating under the assumption that Colorado wins the division this year. I can't see over the course of 82 games. I don't see another team in the Central that keeps up. I just don't.
No.
That's not to say that can't happen. And of course, injuries occur, trades occur.
Dallas, man. No.
I mean, Ottinger looks really good to start the year.
He does, and he is proving every comment I made throughout our offseason episodes wrong, which I'm not saying I never thought the kid was going to be phenomenal.
You didn't think he was going to get to this level.
My thing was he was getting crowned way too early, but hey, you know what? Good for him. He's starting off saying, okay, if you're going to crown me, I'm going to go out and, keep that and earn it.
Right. Secure the bag and live up to that contract. You'll love to see it.
I remember there were offseason talks of we should try, the Hawks should try and grab him. And I'm like, I don't know what we have to give up to get him, but.
Well, draft picks is what it would have been because you would have had to offer sheet him basically.
And at
that point, I mean,
we need the picks.
You need the picks, and especially, can you imagine if the Hawks had offer sheeted Ottinger, had to give up their first round pick this year, probably next year as well, just with the pay amount.
Screw that.
And then they win the lottery, and all of a sudden Connor Bedard is playing in Dallas.
I would hate my life, but the way we're looking at it right now, Connor Bedard might end up in San Jose.
Yeah, San Jose is still on the table. Arizona is still on the table. Montreal is still. Can Montreal, with the new lottery rules, can they win it again next year? If unless they finish last because they're not moving up at that point. Because I thought they changed the rules there so the team couldn't win the first overall pick in back-to-back years. But
are we calling it? Did they call it the Edmonton Oilers rule?
Unofficially.
I don't know what the rules state. What was it?
I'd have to look into what exactly what the specifics are there. I think there's something where they couldn't win it this year, but they could. If they win it, they would move down to second.
It's a little weird.
Yeah, because they've changed it around now so that you can't move up more than 10 spots if you're a non-playoff team, and you can't win, or it's either you can't win or you can't move up in back-to-back years, and you can't have the number 1 overall pick twice in a 3-year span or something like that. I have to look it up.
I'd be a little mad about that. Seems kind of annoying.
It could be. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But anyway, back to the Wild here. They threw Fleury out there, and we talked last week on the show. Joey picked Marc-Andre Fleury for the Vezina. Through the first 3 games, I'm sorry, Joey, it's just not quite there.
That's not
right now. And in fact, he would have to play at a Vezina pace the rest of the season to be, in that conversation. But I can think of 10 guys I can think of 30 guys right now, to be honest, that would have a better claim to it than Fleury.
Alex Stalock, even one of them.
Take Dixon, my guy. I love Stalock, dude.
Hey, dude, he's standing on his head in the first 3 games for us.
He's my guy. I hate that he signed with Chicago, knowing what they're going to go through this year, but I love that he's going to get a ton of work.
Sorry, though, not first 3 games. He played one game, but whatever.
Yeah, but still.
So did Mrazek, though. Mrazek stood on his head, too, even in losses. Anyway.
Right. So I guess just to kind of wrap that up, the Wild are 7th in the league in goals this season. They have the 3rd best power play that's at 40-something%. The young guys have looked good so far. Matt Boldy has been on a tear. Kalen Addison, 4 points through 3 games, 3 of which were power play assists. So love to see that. Marco Rossi was a healthy scratch on during yesterday's game.
He's got no points, -1.
That was a little bit of a surprise. But I think also against a team like Colorado, they maybe just didn't want to get him killed. rivalry game and exposing him to big minutes like that. It's a tough spot to put anybody in. But again, you're eventually, you need to count on Marco Rossi for those games. I think he's not only in the lineup Thursday against Vancouver, but I think a multi-point game incoming for Marco Rossi in that
Whoa.
one. Coming off the healthy scratch, knowing that the Wild need to shake up lines. They moved Hartman down to, I think, the fourth line during the LA game. He had a brutal game against LA. It was really, really bad.
Yeah.
Probably his worst game with the Wild. It was a deserved cut in minutes.
I get it.
But as they're throwing things around and trying to see what works, like Rossi's going to be on the power play. He's going to get it considerably more minutes, I would think, than what he's had so far to work with. And especially if just for kicks, they throw him between Kaprizov and Zuccarello, just for fun, see how that line shakes out. That's a potent line.
Exactly.
If Rossi can be that guy.
Exactly. And I think that's ultimately why, just relax.
Yes.
We I'll throw this out there. We probably should have thrown this out there more than once, but we are only 3, some teams 4 games into the season. Even everything we're saying right now, and we're very early reacting to what the standings look like and what the score sheets are looking like anything can happen. It's only 3. We're only 3, also 4 games into the season.
Right, there's still a couple teams with 2. They have 80 games to go.
Exactly. It's a long season. Just relax. The Wild will be just fine.
Yeah, I agree. And I put together a little Twitter thread. I can't speak.
Twid.
Yeah, words are hard right now. A long day with work. Put together a nice little Twitter thread, being positive on the Wild so far, and hey, here are some things that we can point to. Yes, defense has been bad. Yes, goaltending has been brutal. But look at these other things that are going right. The defense and goaltending issues are going to work themselves out. You get a healthy Jordan Greenway back. You get a healthy John Merrill in the lineup. Those things are going to resolve quite a bit of the issue. So
I don't want you to go down a rabbit hole, but I want to at least plant a seed in your brain.
Okay.
Depending on how things look, let's call it 2 months into the season. So let's put ourselves around the start of December. If the goaltending is still an issue, but the Wild are still getting some wins out of it. 5-4 victories, 6-5, stuff like that. Think they go out at the deadline and look for a goalie?
It's hard to say, because knowing that the Wild have their expected goaltender of the future in Jesper Wallstedt in the system, Fleury and by extension Gustafsson are kind of there to bridge things over and kind of hold the fort down until Wallstedt is ready to go. And to all the Wild fans clamoring for Wallstedt to get called up, no,
you do not do that with a young goalie.
This defense is playing terribly in front of a future Hall of Fame goaltender in Fleury. There's no way that man isn't going to the Hall. He is, period.
No, he absolutely is.
And they're making him look awful. They're making another young goaltender in Gustafsson look pretty rough.
Yeah.
You don't want that in front of Wallstedt as he's trying to develop and get used to the North American system of hockey, getting used to the culture of it's a different game here versus what they play in Europe. It just is. And as he's making these adjustments and getting used to the professional game over here, you don't want to throw him to the wolves like that. It's a great way to kill goaltender development.
It's a great way to stunt the kid's growth.
Right. The other thing, and I mentioned this last year when the Wild went out and got Fleury last year, was I didn't think the Wild last year were a goaltender away from a cup run. I thought there were still a couple other issues. Goaltending, yes, was the biggest issue last season, but defense was also a little concerning, and especially down the stretch, we saw that. The special teams were brutal in the second half of the season, and it really killed them come playoff time.
Not to mention,
and I have the same feeling about the Wild roster this year. They're not a goalie away. So if they went out and got someone, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. But also, I don't know that, I trust Guerin to do whatever he's going to do there. But I don't know. I feel like back-to-back years at the deadline, going out and picking up a goalie, it's almost a little too trigger happy for me. Plus, I don't know who would even be really available at that point.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
we're not going to start talking trade deadline. 2 weeks.
That's a much later show. Yeah, that's come late December, early January. We can start talking some of those names.
One quick thing I want to throw out there before we get to what we didn't talk about. My boys, my pick to, rise from the ashes of a very disappointing season. Vegas. Sitting at the top of the Pacific
How do we not
Division.
talk about that?
I wanted to, but we were talking about a bunch of different things. It just didn't pop up. The Golden Knights. I told you. Again, I'm saying I told you 2 weeks into the season, but
with no goaltending, with Stone out injured, with Pacioretty gone.
Stone's injured again. I didn't see that.
Yeah, he's back now, but he's back now, but he was hurt.
Oh,
he was day to day. I was going to say I missed a couple games.
I watched their first game and he was in. He scored a goal.
He got injured pretty early, so was out for a little bit, but he's back now. He's good. No surprise there. Let's move into Wednesday night picks. Last week I went 2-1. Thank you to Montreal plus 1.5. They won the game outright against Toronto in Toronto. At Montreal, I looked this up. Going back to their playoff series, Montreal has won 6 of its last 8 games against the Maple Leafs. Bad as they've been, they've just had the Leafs figured out. And I don't know if it's the Leafs get the yips or what it is, but it doesn't make sense. But then again, nothing about the Leafs makes sense. So. That was why I ran that pick last week. Did it for the bit, and it paid off. Yeah. But Joel, of course, still has the lead on the all-time leaderboard, 49 and 34 for Joel, 44 and 42 for me.
You're above 500.
Yeah, above 500. I just crept above 500 the last week of last season. Started off 2-1 this year, so trying to keep some good mojo rolling there.
Yep.
Joel, let's jump right into it. First game tomorrow night, the Flyers plus 1.5 goals at plus 100 at the Florida Panthers minus 1.5 goals at minus 120.
I mean, we've been talking about it, and I know it's not sustainable, but I mean, the Flyers are playing fine. I mean, like you said, under Torts, you're gonna be a tough team. I don't care how little talent you have on that team. You're gonna be a little tough to play against. I think I got to do it. I think I'm going to take the Flyers at plus 1.5 here. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I definitely like them plus 1.5 here.
Yeah, I think it'll be a better game than people are anticipating. Last year I would have said, try and get me Panthers at minus 2.5 last season.
Last season when the Panthers were a juggernaut. My pick wouldn't have taken me that long to say.
I'm going to go different here. I am going to go Florida minus 1.5, if only for the reason that Philadelphia is playing tonight as well, and the Panthers are coming in rested. So there is the second game of back-to-back factor there. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Philly kind of hang around, and especially, I think we'll know probably in the first 10 minutes who wins tomorrow night. Because Philly will either keep things close or the Panthers will pounce early at home, and we'll know real quick what type of game we're in for.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I anticipate that the Panthers are going to win and cover. So I'm going to take them at the minus 120 for minus 1.5 goals. But that one wouldn't particularly surprise me either way. This one, to me, could be the game of the night. Winnipeg Jets at Colorado Avalanche. Again, we're going on the puck line here. Winnipeg plus 1.5 goals at minus 135. Colorado minus 1.5 goals at plus 115.
I mean, betting with Colorado is what got me that nice all-time record. So I'm absolutely taking the Avalanche at minus 1.5 on this one.
Yeah, it's really hard to bet against the Avs. It's even harder to bet against the Avs in Colorado. But division games get chippy. And Winnipeg in particular, I think they're probably one of the hardest teams to play against in this division just by style of play. Always up there on the hits list, always up there on the blocked shots list. They're just a tough team to play against. And when you have Connor Hellebuyck back there, who can easily steal you a game, I'm going to take Colorado to win, but I am going to take Jets plus 1.5 here. I think Hellebuyck keeps the game close. I have more faith in him between the pipes than I do Alexander Georgiev or Pavel Francouz. I just don't necessarily trust the Avalanche goaltending yet.
I get it.
So if only for that reason, give me Winnipeg plus 1.5, but I also think Colorado probably wins. I think it's a bet the under kind of game. In fact, let me take a look at the lines here.
It's actually not a bad call. Could bet
the over under for that game is set at 6.5. To me, I think this is like a 3-2 or maybe even a 2-1.
I would take the under on that.
Wouldn't be surprised to see overtime. So for that reason, give me Winnipeg plus 1.5 here. So we're different on each of our first two.
It's pretty good.
This third one is where things are going to get a little more interesting here. Straight up.
Ooh.
No puck line involved here. The St. Louis Blues minus 145, a team that Joel abhors, detests, hates in just about every way imaginable. Mm-hmm. At the Seattle Kraken, who Joel has been known to pick for the bit, quickly becoming one of his favorite teams, even despite their futility last season. A new look Kraken club that is, as we mentioned earlier in the show, off to a pretty decent start on the power play. That they're fifth in the league on the power play at 33.3%. 1-2-1 on the season for Seattle. Joel, are you going to take the Kraken to beat the Blues at home?
You see, it's way too tough here. I would love to, because I don't. I mean, you said it. Why the hell would I bet for the Blues? But technically, we've been talking about it like some teams have only played 2 games. Blues have only played 1 game. The Blues are 1-0. Like, that's not enough to know what the hell your team is, good or bad. But their goal differential in that 1 game was +3 versus the Kraken are 1-2, and their goal differential is -5. I know I understand the power play percentage, but if the Blues don't take any penalties, I'm not that worried about it, right? But it's tough.
Also, St. Louis isn't playing tonight, so it's not like
That's what I'm saying. There's no back-to-back. They've played 1 game. That's it.
That's bizarre to me.
It is. It is very bizarre. How bizarre.
I see what you did there, and I liked it.
And I mean, there's actually, wait, no. Literally every other team has played at least 2 games. They are the only one they've played 1 game. Did they play?
Sorry to cut you off here, but just going back to our who's going to be the last winless team. Vancouver up 2-0 on Columbus at the end of the first. Ottawa up 3-0 on Boston.
Told you.
In the first period.
I told you.
So,
I told you.
Some turnaround there.
I told you, dude. I liked Ottawa tonight against Boston, and so far. And also, like I said, that's literally what I said. I said Vancouver and Ottawa will definitely win, at least if not tonight. Back to this. I'm gonna have to go use some mouthwash after saying it, but the safe bet here is I'm gonna take the Blues.
Yeah, I think I'm with you here too. The rest versus rust is always something that you've got to consider when, like you said, they've played one game.
And they're
so
1-0.
far.
They won that
Right.
one game. So,
Right.
and who was it
But that was
against?
a while ago. So,
yeah, who was that against? That was against. You can talk real quick while I.
while you're talking there, Seattle, I love Matty Beniers. He is such a fun player to watch. Already on the season, he has come out of the gates firing, and I think has to be your favorite to win the Calder this year. 4 games played, a goal and 3 assists.
Isn't that who I picked?
I think it is who you picked. I have to go back and check the tape on it, see for sure. But Beniers and Kalen Addison are the only rookies with 4 points so far. So other than that, I mean, everybody else has 2 or fewer.
Yep.
But Beniers, Kraken fans have a very special player to look forward to in Matty Beniers and what he's going to do. The fact that they have Shane Wright as a backup there.
I think Kraken fans are still scratching their heads like, how the hell did we get Shane Wright?
Mm-hmm. Well, and if those 2 players develop like they're supposed to, I mean, they can have their 1-2 center punch combo like what you see a lot of teams have built their success around, particularly recently. The Sharks kind of did that with Joe Thornton and Pavelski.
Yep.
Boston doing that with Krejci and Bergeron. On a more scoring side, the Penguins, Crosby and Malkin.
Yep.
I'm not saying that they're going to be at that level. So let's make that very clear. This comparison is not directly like that's the level that we're expecting or anticipating, because all of those players are dramatically different. Say that again, sorry.
I said Ovechkin, Backstrom, but Ovechkin's a wing. Never mind.
Right. It's again, so just to be clear, like not saying they will be at that level, not saying that their style of play is even necessarily similar, but you see that these teams that win and have this sustained success, it really starts with solid center depth. And that's what Seattle is building around.
Yeah, totally.
On the Blues side, I think the Blues right now have the better center depth between the 2.
Also, I did find it. They beat the Blue Jackets 5-2.
So
they didn't play a good team necessarily at all.
Well, and I'm guessing that was without Patrick Laine as well, because Laine was injured in the opener, so he may not have even played that game.
Right. But with that said, too, like the usual suspects for the Blues were scoring: Buchnevich, Tarasenko, Buchnevich, Tarasenko, Barbashev getting in there, right? So Tarasenko actually had 2 goals. So yeah, there you go. The usual suspects are in there. So one game, I think the Blues are the safe bet here.
Yeah, I'm going Blues here too. So to recap our picks, we're both taking the Blues over Seattle on the money line on that one. On the puck line, Joel is taking Colorado -1.5. I'm going with Winnipeg +1.5. And then we did the opposite on Flyers and Panthers. Joel took Flyers +1.5, and I took the Panthers -1.5 at home. Joel, it's that time. 2 minutes for roughing here.
Your turn.
And put 2 minutes up there on the clock for me. I'll take a swig of water here. Get ready.
As will I. I will take a swig of water to not talk for 2 minutes.
That sounds about right.
All righty. Ready?
Yeah, ready as I'm going to be. I picked this topic all of about 10 seconds ago.
Oh, wow. Well, 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, boy. Counting in quick. Okay. So one thing that we as sports fans tend to dramatically overreact to is power rankings every year. The last couple of years when I have been working with Noob Sports and the Sports 2.0 network, used to do weekly power rankings, and I very much enjoyed doing it. If people love to read them, I am someone who as well likes to read power rankings, see the trends of recent teams. But looking at across sports, the overreaction over power rankings and how slighted people feel because their team is not number one in the power rankings is honestly kind of absurd. Looking at the NFL, the top two teams right now, arguably, would be Philadelphia and Buffalo. And the number of people who I saw getting bent out of shape today because Philadelphia was number 2 behind Buffalo it was either the ESPN or the Sports Illustrated power rankings, was honestly ridiculous to me. The Vikings were number 4 and number 7 in the power rankings that I read today. The Jets were a top 10 team. The Giants were a top 10 team in these power rankings because they're going by record and they're 5-1. But the important thing to remember is at the end of the day, you are who your record says you are, but power rankings, there's so much more room for error with power rankings. Are the Giants frauds at 5-1? Maybe. Are the Jets frauds at I think they're either 4-2 or 5-1?
They're 4-2.
4-2. Okay. Yeah, probably. Are the Vikings frauds at 5-1? Absolutely. But you are who your record says you are. So don't get bent out of shape over power rankings. Let the season play out. Have fun. Enjoy the ride.
All right. I have 2 quick points on your point there.
Okay.
The Vikings are not a fraud at 5-1 at all. They are the best team in the NFC North, and I'm not going to hear that. The Packers suck.
I will give you this. They are right now. They are the best team in the NFC North,
and I love. Hey, I'll take it because I knew it wasn't going to be us, so I'll take it. Although I hate the Vikings,
specifically because it's not Green Bay.
The other thing,
I think the Lions are going to make a splash once they get St. Brown and DeAndre Swift healthy. That defense is worrisome, but that offense is potent.
That's not this week, right? Because I picked against them in my survivor pool this week.
They're
also playing Dallas.
Swift is questionable. St. Brown, I think, is also doubtful.
I'd like to think I'm safe because Dallas's defense is a wrecking ball.
Yeah, when Micah Parsons has free reign, that's a scary defense.
But to your other point too, I agree. By the way, the whole overreacting to power rankings, totally agree.
Right.
But I'm not exactly surprised by your comment of people being pissed about seeing Philly be second and Buffalo be first. Because, dude, Philly fans, are you surprised?
we have a couple that watch the show pretty regularly.
No offense, but most Philly fans are a little nuts.
And don't get me wrong, the Eagles are a good football team this year.
And I'm rooting for them. I love me some Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. I love both of them.
It's a fun tandem to watch. The defense is good. But if you're asking me right now to pick neutral site, which team wins between the Bills and the Eagles?
It's the Bills all day.
Give me the Bills, and if both are healthy, give me the Bills by double digits.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a good football team.
Jalen Hurts is on a tear, and all of us in Chicago are hoping that Justin Fields can turn into that at least, right? But Josh Allen is just a different animal. Just like we said, Patrick Mahomes is a totally different universe. So is Josh Allen. Patrick Mahomes has his own planet, and Josh Allen is slowly getting his own planet.
And Josh Allen just went into Kansas City and led the Bills to a victory against Mahomes and the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And that's probably, in a lot of those power rankings, that was your number 3 team was the Chiefs.
Second season in a row that's happened. The last home game, regular season game the Chiefs lost to was the Bills.
Yeah, they're a good football team. They are going to be Super Bowl contenders. But Philly, guess what? You're the best in the NFC. You're probably going to get home field throughout.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you just beat that crazy juggernaut defense that I just mentioned in Dallas. So
yeah. Cowboys fans are like, well, we were playing Cooper chill. 2 weeks ago, you were talking about how Cooper Rush is better than Dak Prescott.
Cooper Rush passed for 300 plus yards.
Yeah, y'all need to chill.
He threw 3 interceptions, but still.
Everybody chill. I guess that's my message for 2 minutes for roughing day. Everybody chill.
I am a Bears fan. I have to tell everybody to chill every week.
Yeah, that's about right. I think it's probably a good time for us to chill out for the rest of the night. Thank you to everybody for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow on Twitter at PodSnipeCelly and on Facebook. Again, search PodSnipeCelly there.
Leave a review.
Leave a review.
Do it.
Very much
Please.
appreciated. We are on
Please.
iTunes and on Spotify for wherever you can listen to your podcast there. Thank you again to Noob Sports and the Sports 2.0 Network for giving us this platform each week to do this show. We absolutely love it. We love the viewers. We love the commenters throughout the show. Live Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central.
6 o'clock Central.
I remembered it this time. You thought I was going to forget.
I appreciate that.
But that is it for tonight's episode. We will be back next Tuesday at the same time. He's Joel. I'm Dan. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.
We'll see ya.